you so much for your support. And I'm so grateful to the team at Riverside COE for inviting me here and allowing me to present. This is just a great opportunity and a wonderful conference so far. If you want to hashtag and promote this, the hashtag is IE Google Camp. Again, my name is Roxana Haddad. I am the Associate Director at the CS Equity Project at UCLA Center X. I also represent computer science for California, right there. So, which I'll be talking more about in a minute. If you all wouldn't mind, since I just introduced myself, we're not a huge group. So if you all wouldn't mind putting in the chat where you're from and what your role is, just so I have a better sense of everyone who's here, that would be great. Oh, I love it. It's a real diverse group. So we've got homeschool teachers and TK teachers, fourth grade teachers. That's really exciting. Wonderful. So we've got a varied group, and that leads for a more interesting discussion. So I appreciate that. Oh, professional development specialist. Wonderful. This is amazing. So just to give you a quick overview of what we're going to do today, this is a 1-hour session, so we're going to jam pack a bunch in there. But we're first going to talk about like what is computer science when I'm talking about computer science. What is our state doing about computer science education? How we can look at the data to address issues in computer science. And when we do know what the data says, how do we respond to the inequities that we do see in computer science education? So, and then I'll provide you with a set of resources to kind of make next steps based on what we talk about. The first thing I want you to do before I start talking is if you have not seen the CS Equity Guide and you do not own it, I want you to please download it here at csforca.org/resources. Obviously, everything I'm going to say to you today is just gold, and you should pay attention to my every word. But while you can multitask, and while I'm doing that, if you wouldn't mind downloading this so that when we get to our activity at the end of the session, you're ready to hit the ground running. And I'll talk more about what this guide is and how it's a useful resource. So first, let's talk about what is computer science. This might sound like an obvious question and answer, but a lot of us have different definitions of what is computer science. So, oh, and this is great. Heidi has hard copies of the Equity Guide, which is it's actually really nice to look at it in person, and it's beautifully printed. So it's available for you online, but definitely hit up Heidi if you would like a physical copy of the Equity Guide. So when I say computer science, a lot of people sometimes equate that with educational technology. There's a lot of us in the room who come from the world of educational technology. But computer science does not the same thing as educational technology. Computer science helps develop the skills to create technology, not just for students to consume it. So educational technology is kind of how we facilitate student learning through technology, but computer science is the actual looking under the hood and developing that kind of technology. A lot of times it's also conflated with digital literacy, and digital literacy is more about understanding it's more about using tools and understanding what they are, but computer science helps us understand how the technological world works. CS is also conflated a lot with coding. And while coding is a huge part of computer science or programming, whatever term we want to use, It's also comprised of data structures, computer architecture, human-computer interaction, networking, all sorts of things that make up what CS is. And this is reflected in the K-12 computer science standards in California. And for some of you, I possibly just blew your mind because a lot of you probably didn't even know that California did have CS standards. A lot of times when I talk to people, they have no idea. So if you can see that there's 5 major areas in the California computer science standards, and only one of them is programming. There's computing systems, networks and the internet, data analysis, and impacts of computing that are also included as part of the standards. So the definition that are included in these standards is the one provided by Tucker et al. In 2006, which is that computer science is a study of computers and algorithmic processes, including their principles, their hardware and software designs, their applications, and their impact on society. That impact on society is a big one for us at CS4CA, and I'll talk about that more in a minute. So because you can tell from this definition, this encompasses a lot of what computer science is, and computer science is incredibly and becoming increasingly more important. So for this reason, CS4CA was founded. Computer Science for California is a multi-stakeholder coalition. And what we mean by that is we're not just comprised of educators from K through 12 and higher ed, but we're also made up of nonprofit organizations, government organizations, legislators, industry partners. And this is intentional because for us to move ahead as to how computer science is going to, how computer science education is going to change, we need to really have all voices at the table to really inform how we're making decisions about how it will move forward. Our mission is to ensure equity and access to high quality teaching and learning opportunities in CS in California, while prioritizing the needs of low income students, students of color, and girls. Our goal is that by the year 2025, all schools in California will provide all students with access to and engagement in high quality computer science that prepares them for college, careers, and community engagement. You'll see in a little bit with the data we have now to say by the year 2025 is incredibly ambitious, but hey, go big or go home, right? Like we're going to do our best. The CS4CA started as a result of the publication of the book Stuck in the Shallow End, written by our colleague Jane Margolis and her colleagues at UCLA. Has anyone ever, show of hands, or you can put it in the chat since everyone has turned their camera off. Has anyone ever read Stuck in the Shallow End or seen Stuck in the Shallow End? If you haven't, I highly recommend it. It's a great book and gives you a good understanding of what inequity in computer science education means. I'm guessing by the silence on the chat, no one has read Stuck in the Shallow End, but you really should. And because when it was published, it shows these real disparities between 3 different, thanks so much, Heidi, between 3 different districts in Los Angeles, and demonstrated how differences in how bias plays a part in structural organization and policies serve to really create these disparities as to who has access and who is engaged in computer science education. After the publication of this book, the organization Access started, and that kind of evolved into what CS4CA is today. And since the founding of Computer Science for California, we've seen a supplementary authorization for teachers be approved for computer science. We've had a CS strategic implementation plan be put in place, standards approved by the School Board of Education, the State Board of Education. We now have funding for professional development for a CS coordinator and for broadband for more of our students. And now computer science was recognized by UC as a science and math as admission eligibility to the UCs. And our research practice partnership, SCALE, who some of the illustrious members are with us here today, they helped develop CS Equity Guide, which I made you download and which I will talk to you more about in a minute. as well as developed a workshop for administrators to be offered at the Summer of CS PD Week. And that leads us to you. You are here today to continue this movement to provide more computer science education to our students. If you all were attending Dr. Howard's great keynote this morning, you know, it's part of being a movement of creating this idea of digital equity and digital justice for students, and that includes computer science. I mentioned the Summer of CS. What is the Summer of CS? I'm glad you asked. Summer of CS is a week-long regional professional development model that we have developed with my friends at Scale that I referenced. The model for it is, thanks so much, Dr. Large. Great question. So what it is a model that is, we find it really important that for professional development to be effective, it has to be not just ongoing, but at various levels. So this is professional development that's not just offered to teachers, but to school councils or administrators as well. We encourage people to come to Summer of CS professional development as a team, because for computer science to be implemented equitably, this has to be, it has to be expanded to all educators at every level within a school to make sure that they're all on the same page in terms of how structures in a school environment should be put into place, and make sure that recruiting happens actively for all students. So we provide professional development for all of these stakeholders and provide spaces for them to talk to one another to make sure that happens. It just happened. So that's a bit of a bummer, because if you don't know what I'm talking about, then you just missed it. But it's going to happen again next year in June. So put a pin in it, and then you want to come back next year. I've been talking on and on about about what computer science is, but I want to make sure we know why it's so important. And again, Dr. Howard touched on some of this with digital literacy, but I'm going to hone in a little bit specifically on computer science, because computer science is critical to the success of our students. Not just, I think it's obvious for economic reasons. There's a ton of CS jobs and they're really well paying. So it provides a lot of high earning potential for our students, but also because of it gives our students agency in their lives and in the direction they want to go, because computer science is woven into so much that we do every day. It's critical to the success of our states. I think we're seeing playing out in real time what happens when you know, we just we allow digital environments to not really, there's no check on them, and we really have to make sure that our students are engaged with what happens with their democracy and their government, and that is starting to more and more be integrated with our computing infrastructure and our society. Just, I mean, everything we do is related to computing. When we drive our cars, how we bank, how we shop, how we communicate just to our loved ones, even, it all involves computer science. So it's really critical for our students to have an understanding of what we're talking about when we have what is under the hood when in these digital tools that we're using, and what it means when they developed an algorithm. Take away the magic from what it is and really show that it's what it means to have these algorithms in place. Computer science prepares, so all of this is to say, this is a very, very long-winded way of saying that computer science prepares students for college, careers, and community engagement. And it helps them achieve academically, provides them with career success and ways to engage with their community and the society around them. But, and here's the ellipses here that provides the, unfortunately, of the 1.9 million high school students in California, only 5% of them took computer science in 2018, 2019. I know that data is a little bit old, but that's the data we have available. It's not like, don't get your ideas that like in the last 3 years that things have changed dramatically. we're still around those numbers. So yeah, 5% in California. California ranks 35th in states that offer at least one high school course in computer science. I am talking about the same state that has Silicon Valley is ranking 35th. Yeah, sad face, Teresa, absolutely. Yes, ouch, Dr. Howard, that's right. Like it's a shame. We should be, we really have to work harder. It doesn't make sense here. And that's not the only problem. It's not just the access, but it's also about the fact that there's still a massive gender gap in California. Half of our students are female, are girls, but only 30% of them are taking computer science. That's a bummer. That's terrible. In low income schools, are half as likely to offer computer science in high income schools. Rural schools are half as likely to offer CS courses than urban schools. That's supposed to say half as likely, not half as Ike. Sorry about that. Our Black and Brown students just make up, even though they comprise 60% of our population, they only make up 16% of our APCSA takers. This is what computer science for California is about. We're not just talking about, like, when we say computer science for all, we want to be very intentional about what we mean when we say all. And this is, we are talking about those low income students. We're talking about the Black and Brown students. We're talking about girls. All students should have access to high quality computer science education if we want them to all succeed in the future. And so why is the equity in computer science important? Because when we don't have equity in computer science, we see problems. There is no criticality in how computer science is being developed. And these are tools we're using every day. So we're coming up against, and this again is playing out in real time right now, we're coming up against problems of algorithmic bias, of income inequality, and misinformation. And we see this playing out in headlines every day. And a lot of this is because we don't have the diversity in computer science, and we're not highlighting issues of equity when we are teaching computer science and in how we have students engage in computer science. So I want to encourage you to think about, what does computer science look like in your district? It's very easy, I think, for all of us to say, like, oh my God, that's terrible about California, but let's look at our own districts. And I'm going to put in the chat. Here's a tool that we have on our website called the CS Equity Dashboard. This, you can look up the data specific to your school, to your district, to your county, and see where are the disparities. And this, I mean, the tool it's really gotten great over the years. We also have intersectional data, so you can see, not just what the gender disparity and the race and ethnicity disparity. You can also see intersectional data. So how do Black and Brown girls compare to Black and Brown boys? And so you really need to focus in on where are these equity gaps and see where you are in terms of, as a district, as a school, in terms of equity, because that allows you, Dr. Howard talked about this earlier today, it allows you to use that data to help you make decisions as to how to move forward. So based on that, we're going to take some time. So did everyone do their homework and download that I talked about at the beginning, and download the CS Equity Guide? I'm going to put the resource back in, where did I put it? Here it is. Oh, thanks so much, Heidi. So make sure you've downloaded that. So the CS Equity Guide, just to give you some background, was developed by some of our friends in this room right now, by administrators who, it started with a couple of administrators in the Bay Area, in Oakland and San Francisco, who were doing a great job of rolling out computer science education in their district. They were getting lots of questions, or fielding tons of questions from other districts, and they started collecting these questions and their answers. We took their database of questions and answers and interviewed other administrators and did focus groups And then we released our first version of this equity guide in April of 2019. And then the second version after we got more feedback and more ideas of what to put in it in September of 2020. And we are starting to collect more stuff to do a third version. But this equity guide provides a lot of great information. I'm not just saying that because I helped write it. It's legitimately a great resource for you. And we're going to take some time just to use it now, just to get our hands a little bit dirty, to give you some time to check it out and see how it might be useful to you. So what I'm going to do is provide you, we have, I put together a Jamboard here that's got some different challenges that you might face as an educator in your district. And then what we're going to do is do some breakouts. Let's see, we have we're going to do big breakouts. We have 15 people in here. I think we can do, so I have 6 challenges, and we'll put each of you in a breakout room. So what we're going to do is read your challenge, the one that you, and as soon as I say we're going to put you in a breakout room, now we're going to have 6 people left. Everyone's going to be like, whoa, no. I love breakout rooms, but I think, so read through the challenge individually, then discuss with whoever's in your room the way that you would respond to it. The equity guide is not, even though it's written in a question and answer format, there's questions, but they're not necessarily answers. We provide you guidance, but we also recognize that for your context, whether you're a rural school or an urban school, or you're a small district or a big district, the way you answer the questions that you come up against, the challenges you come up against, are really specific to your own personal context. So what we provide in the equity guide are things for you to think about as you make these decisions. So talk about that with whoever's in your room as to how you would address this challenge. And then you can look in the equity guide to see if you have any additional information that can help you. So I am going to give you 10 to 15 minutes, I think, to discuss this with your group. And then we'll come back and then share out what we learned about from each of those groups. So let me do my breakout rooms. And you are going to have to bear with me, because even though we've had Zoom we've all been immersed in Zoom for the last almost 3 years. Let's see. It always takes me forever to do breakout rooms. All right, we are set up. So I'm going to open up these rooms. And then based on what room number you are, just go to that challenge. So the challenges, let me put that in the chat for you, are going to be right here. There you go. Thank you, Dr. Jan. She was like, wait, are you not going to share? Sorry, yes. I almost did forget to share the link to the Jamboard. There's the Jamboard. So if you could all go there, and then when I open up the breakout room, just remember what room you're in. And then here, and then I'll copy and paste the instructions for you. Well, just all you have to do, I'm not going to do that. Just go through the challenge, figure out what you would do in that situation. Talk to your partner or partners in that group as to how you would address it. And then look at the equity guide is to see if they've got any additional suggestions. And then make sure one of you is ready to report back. Everyone always forgets about the reporter. Make sure you assign a recorder, and then we'll come back and see what everyone had to say about that. Okay. So hopefully you all had some good discussions. What we're going to do is share out now. One group we didn't have any participants in, so we'll just talk about that one as a full group. So if group 1, I'm going to read the challenge, and then you all can talk about, let me move this a little bit so I can read it, talk about how you would address it, and what your ideas were for it. Challenge 1, family engagement. You were really excited to implement computer science in your school, but the families in your school would rather stick to the standard A through G requirements. How can you engage the students and families and help them encourage their students to take computer science?
I'll start. My partner can chime in if she wants to.
Oh,
You want to go?
no, go ahead, sweetie.
Okay.
I'll chime in.
We basically just said, I mean, it was, I was interested in what she had to say because I don't have any computer science experience in the school. I'm a homeschool support teacher, so it doesn't, and my kids are still pretty young, but she just said that she hasn't had this problem, that it's a lot of people are really interested, but you know, maybe if there was this sort of issue, then she would like do parent education. She talked about the Parent Institute and just connecting the parents with what the students are interested in, because all of her students are pretty interested in it. So parent education, basically.
Yep, what she said.
That's awesome. Does anyone else have experience? Because this is something we're really interested in expanding at CS for CA and at UCLA is family engagement. Does anyone else have anything to offer in terms of family engagement?
Just to tag on to what she was saying, in my district, we have 5 middle schools, and all 5 middle school teachers are teaching the same computer science program, and it's called SkillStrut, and online based coding platform, and so we collaborate. We do a meet on a Zoom weekly, and share out where our students are, any struggles. But we have not had any parent interference as far as I know from the district perspective, not from the educators' perspective. Our students, once they learn it, a lot of them are apprehensive because they might be like, they may not have done it before, coding, but some of them may have had it earlier in the elementary, so then they're familiar with it. And they catch on pretty well, pretty swiftly. So it's a positive experience that me, the other 4 middle school teachers have. I think this is our, okay, 2 summers ago. Okay, so 2 summers ago, we kind of did a pilot for that summer. And then last year was our first full year teaching it semester long classes, because our students change electives after this semester. So we have each class for a semester. But we'll be going into our 2nd year collectively as middle school teachers. And we have also computer science at the high school level. And I think that they're trying to grow it more on the high school level. So the young, so it will continue from middle school to high school, and then to implement computer science in every elementary school. And maybe we have 22 or so in our district. And so they do want to capitalize on implementing computer science in every grade, from elementary on up to middle and high school, and then ultimately that they will pursue it in their higher ed, which is either junior college or college level, 4-year college. So
that's amazing.
That's my share out. Thank you.
It sounds like you're in a great district that's doing a lot. That's super exciting. Thanks so much, Group 1. That was great. Challenge 2, inclusion. You've read research about the importance of representation in CS spaces and making all students feel included and engaged. Your class is very diverse in terms of gender expression, race, income, language, and disabilities, but you don't feel like you can relate to their experiences. What strategies will you use to make sure your class is a welcoming space for all students?
So I'll go ahead and share for my team. We started off just talking about things that you do as a teacher in general, getting to know your students and how important that is. And then making sure that you're being culturally responsive. And we also talked about, where it said, you don't feel that you can relate to their experiences. So and trying to make sure that the students are the center of our work. We want to gauge their prior knowledge and learn about their experiences before we try building on it. So really building that relationship and getting to know the students. We also spoke about the integration of CS into other subjects so that all students are getting it whenever we can offer it. So putting it into math or social studies or science or language arts, wherever we can find an area to let it, just kind of fit into there nicely. And then helping make those connections with students that they may not see. And then let's see what else. Also allowing students to see themselves and others in computer science careers. So that whole windows and mirrors type of thing, just letting them see like, hey, this is a computer scientist who kind of looks like you. So I threw a picture of Ada to a scientist on there and all her little friends, even though she's not a computer scientist, she very, she may be one day. And my daughter loves this cartoon, by the way. So I'm just like, I got to stick around there. But anyway, and then just providing opportunities for students to create based on the things that are meaningful and relevant to them. Like what connections do they have with whatever they want to build, and let them just go at it because it's important for them. And as teachers, we can learn more about them by just seeing what they've created and hearing what they have to say.
That's amazing, Sharisa. And like everything you said is not just good computer science education, it's just good pedagogy, right? Like it's just good teaching practices. So everything you'd apply to anything, but really focusing in on CS in terms of being culturally responsive, because we're obviously quite struggling in making sure that we're doing that. So the tips Sharisa's group gave are great ones. Thank you so much. Challenge 3, integration. You've been hearing a lot about how CS can be integrated into other subjects, but you don't know how to do that. If you want to align with CS standards, science standards, and math standards, how can you integrate your coursework?
Amna, if you guys want to jump in, go ahead, but otherwise I'll speak for now. We first talked about, taking a look at the practices, aligning the practices of the standards, really digging into those standards. Partnering is something, this is actually something that the group there in Moreno Valley has done. They partnered with universities to develop units, and just really planning and collaboration. Once you start to take a look at units in CS, you'll see where they align in science and math. Professional development. Amna, do you guys want to continue? Because a lot of these were from you guys.
Yes, so we are already integrating computer science in our classroom. We also offer computer science classes at middle and high school level. At elementary school, we integrate computer science, coding, programming, robotics in our classrooms. And then I just added science and engineering fair. That is another way of integrating computer science, also encouraging your students to develop an app or something related to computer science for your science and engineering fair project. And this year we end up having, last year actually, school year, we end up having few students writing computer programs and develop some apps for science and engineering fair. Or do you want to add something?
Yeah, they added, the app was on travel. So it was an amazing app on how to travel DC, and here's DC. And just about app development in general, not specific to science and engineering fair. We started that CS cadre. So it was a group of about 30 elementary teachers and 5 high school teachers, or 10 high school teachers. And they all learned about app development and just how to use app development in their class. So, math facts, creating a math fact app development, or, a different, and like a historical figure answering things. So just app development in general can pretty much be integrated into almost any subject.
And I think one thing which we learned is last year we hired a computer science consultant, and that was a huge success with our teachers.
Yeah.
That they were listening, hearing from someone who worked in the industry, and she shared her experiences and how to integrate computer science. And she talked about artificial intelligence and personal biases. And so that was such a rich experience for our teachers. And they totally see how to integrate computer science and their science or math or English language arts, or maybe even in social studies classroom. So
We could go on forever. So if you
No,
want.
I was just gonna say, like, nobody told me I was getting like the gifted group, like that, because all of you have been sharing out. It's like I got like the honors.
And then
You all
on
have
your
such
website,
great.
you have the data tab. So our county, I think average or state average is 5%, our district average is 7%. So I just wanted to brag about that.
Good for you. Yeah, and I will hope you all see that Heidi put into the chat that she and Dr. Chan will be sharing app development at the 1 o'clock session if you want to learn more about that. Again, you guys are sharing such amazing ideas and resources. This is great. Challenge 4, CS2. Since COVID, you were completely burned out. You have so much on your plate, and your students do too. You believe in the importance of CS, but students really need help with the basics at this point. How can you possibly add CS into the mix? This is a challenge that is near and dear to my heart because I am hearing the struggle that teachers are going through. So I am looking forward to hearing your thoughts on this one.
I'm just going to jump in just real quick because Heidi is the one that has a great thing to share. But I am a TK teacher, and I am extremely guilty of this, that right after all the online learning, that what kind of just backed off, and I didn't do much with my students at all. And then last year it was kind of just an at-home thing. So Heidi's going to have a great one to share because it kind of took me 2 steps back and went, duh. But one of the things that I was saying, and it's a little hard with my youngers, but trying to find a way for kids to be able to be the teachers versus just the consumers. If they can teach their class something they've learned. My TK kids probably know more than I do about computers, and I use them as resources sometimes, but definitely finding a way to keep them interested versus them just reading more or seeing more. So I'm gonna let Heidi share what she had because it was amazing.
Oh, Jenny, you are too kind. No, I really appreciate our conversation because Jenny was very candid and just saying, you know, they were on screen for so long, really, and we're talking about TK, right? Coming back after being on screen for so long, really putting them on a screen for another year, you know, is tough. So how do we get the kids moving and collaborating and talking? So important at that age, right? But I shared a code.org lesson with Jenny, and some of you might be familiar with it, but it's called like My Robotic Friend. But the premise is that the kids aren't programming online, they're doing unplugged things. So in this case, with the little ones there, you know, you have one student that's a robot and you're giving that robot commands, right? So they're doing speaking and listening, they're learning directions, they're collaborating with one another, and they're still using, you know, computer science principles, but they're not kind of stuck in the screen. And so that was just one thought I had for the little ones, and frankly for the older ones too. They would enjoy it as well as part of their CS instruction. But Jenny, what do you think about using that with your little ones? Do you see that working with TK and K?
Oh, for sure. I mean, that was my dumb moment was, you know, you think computer science and you think they have to put a screen in front of them. But truly, especially with the younger ones, taking those steps back. And, you know, I teach, you know, what is a computer? And I teach more through how do we use it in the classroom, and everything that I do, you know, we talk about how I'm using a computer, why I'm using a computer, and getting them to do some of those things where, yeah, they use the computer in the classroom, but also, again, that unplugged part was huge for me because I struggle with what to do for computer science. And I'm actually really excited to implement that. And Heidi's going to come help me.
Yeah, we're very close. We're neighbors too. So that
So we made a huge connection today. So that was amazing.
So thank you. Yes.
That's wonderful. And Jenny, I do not want you to feel like you're guilty of anything because burnout is real.
Everybody. Yeah.
We're all burned out. Like,
yeah.
and I'm not in the classroom, so I don't even understand, like, you know, the kind of burnout you all are experiencing. So it's a real issue, and the kids are burned out too. So taking these thoughts into account are really important. We didn't have anyone from Challenge 5. Challenge 6, I always feel bad for Challenge 6 because I let things run too long. Challenge 6, you have like a minute to tell me. I apologize for that. But if you could talk about amplifying CS, you believe that CS is important, but you don't think your school community understands how and why it's so important. What can you do to spread the word about CS and increase CS opportunities at your school?
Yes, so we used the toolkit and just sort of searched around. They have like even a script that you could use with admin, different ways to brainstorm, like how you could create a vision for your school. So I thought that was cool. You know, just encouraging ways that computer science can increase collaboration. It can have positive outcomes for students. Also, what I thought was really neat was like not everyone thinks of themselves as a gamer or a programmer. So if you can find ways to highlight aspects of computing, and I took this straight from the toolkit, that are creative or altruistic, then you can encourage like different types of students to get involved with that as well.
That's great. Thanks so much, Hannah, and really great summary when I forced you into shortened time. So I appreciate that. Heidi posted that link in there. There's also CS Unplugged if you want to visit there, by Tim Bell, he's based out of New Zealand or Australia, somewhere very far away. But he has got some great activities as well. So in the last 5 minutes, I just want to provide you with some more resources to look towards. Again, CS for CA, this is, we put everything in there that might be useful to educators across the state in terms of policy and equity issues. We are also on Twitter, so you could follow us on Twitter if you're on Twitter. The CSTA, I don't know if anyone going to the conference in Chicago, I will be there. If you are not involved in CSTA, they also have great resources. Thanks so much, Heidi. It was great seeing you. And the Kapoor Center has a really nice framing. Oh, thank you, Heidi. Yes, we also have a CSTA chapter for the Inland Empire. So please join that if you are not already part of it. The Kapoor Center has released a framework for culturally sustaining, thanks for coming, Steve, for culturally sustained computer science education. And next year, June, Summer of CS, be there or be square. We have, like I said, we just finished this year, but we will have, oops, I forgot to put the G at the end of that. We will have resource connections for throughout the year for Summer of CS, and we will have, we're expanding Summer of CS, so it will be in your district, regardless of where you are. So just to summarize, 5 actions you can take to increase equity in computer science California. Attend the Summer of CS, as I've been talking about. Use the data tool to look at where the equity gaps exist in your district or in your school. Advocate and inform your local decision makers, your families, your instructional leaders, so that they include computer science in their LCAPs. Connect with parents and families to build demand. They have a large voice and they can make a change. And subscribe to our newsletter, as I said, and follow us on Twitter for any more information. I've left 2 minutes for questions if anyone has any. Otherwise, thanks so much for coming. Thanks for your engaged participation. I learned a ton from you, so I really appreciate your attendance and for being here today. Thanks again.